Welcome to the Exemplar Effect, the podcast where we explore the profound impact of mentors and role models. Today, we have a truly inspiring guest, Faustine McDonald. Faustine is a Sylva, North Carolina native, a successful entrepreneur, and an advocate for sickle cell awareness. In this episode, Faustine shares her incredible story of resilience, overcoming adversity, and using her experiences to empower others. We'll hear about the lasting impact of her mother, Victoria, a beloved teacher and community leader who instilled in Faustine the importance of education, heritage, and servicing others. We'll also learn about the profound influence of Faustine's brother, Creighton, who bravely faced his own struggles with sickle cell while guiding and supporting Faustine's journey. Faustine's story is a testament to the power of family, community, and the human spirit. I hope you enjoy the program and thank you for checking us out. So Faustine, thank you for joining me on the Exemplar Effect Podcast. I'm very grateful that you accepted my invitation to come on to the podcast. Thank you.
I appreciate the invitation. It was a very nice email sent to me, and I appreciate the invitation and actually what you're doing. I'm very kind of selective of who I talk to. It's just because things can be twisted. I want the truth always to be told, and I'm doing an amazing job at that.
I always like to start the beginning of every show by telling the guest why I threw them an invitation. Why did I reach out to you? I live in Sylva, North Carolina, where you were born and raised, right? Little small mountain town in Western North Carolina. And I'm old school, baby. I still read the local newspaper every week. Every week I'm a paid subscriber, and every week I get my copy of the Sylva Herald and I read it. And a month ago, back in February, there was an article where you came to town and you spoke to the students of Smoky Mountain Elementary School. Well, included in that article, there was a link to the YouTube video of you speaking to the kids. And I happened to click the link and I got hooked. Immediately got hooked. I watched the entire 45-minute speech that you gave to these kids. And I was like, I have to speak to this woman. I have to reach out to her because you spoke to these kids in a way that's very difficult. You commanded the room. You were engaging and you shared a very powerful message. And that message was creating a living legacy. I'm not even going to lie. You brought me to tears twice. I came to tears twice. I was laying in my bed watching it on my TV right behind me. And I was brought to tears twice. And I was like, let me see if she would be interested in coming on. Because I need to know, I really believe that, the people who we are, the people who we've grown to become, we're kind of like the recipe of our life. And our exemplars, the people who have influenced us, are kind of like the ingredients, right? And we're the recipe. And these people who have influenced us are the ingredients. So I wanted to invite you on and kind of find out where all this powerful stuff came from, because you got me. So it was an awesome speech.
I appreciate that. That means more than you know. It's something I can say that I know that I've always been called to do, but I kind of ran away from. Not ran away from, was hesitant to do. I liked being in the shadows. I liked lifting up other people. And I knew my story needed to be told, and to help uplift, and there's certain ways to do that. And that's what brought me there. And those kids are amazing. They're just absolutely amazing. That's like nothing about Smoky Mountain E is normal, right? Nothing about that school, those kids, those teachers, the foundation that was built so long ago. But I appreciate that so much because I didn't know why. Like I said, you just reached out and that really does. It gave me a little bit of a tear because it makes me feel good to know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, that I'm actually impacting people, whether it's just one person.
I'm just some random dude, a random grown-ass man in Western North Carolina, and you touched me. You really did. Why do you think that you preferred to kind of like lay back in the shadows a little bit? Why do you think that that was more comfortable for you?
Well, for some people, it's more comfortable because they don't like the spotlight considerably, and for their life to be micro seen or looked at, from this hourglass, just you're in there for a display. And that's just, a lot of people like that. That's not my problem. I've played sports my entire life. My entire life, I've had to be the center of attention, whether I wanted it or not. I had to be, I think, mostly, if you want to know the truth, is it wasn't that I didn't need that I was told. I didn't want to be seen differently. I have sickle cell anemia, and so when you have sickle cell, when you have a chronic illness, something that kills thousands a year, between the age of 18 to like 31, the most sickle cell kids die because I'm not seeing treated correctly and this sort of thing, and understand. But anyways, it's easy to want to be normal because you're not seen as normal. I was told I was going to die at 6, 11, 21, 31. My body tries to kill itself every year. I'm not supposed to be here, but I think that truly the root of the reason that I didn't want to be seen, up front, is because then they would have to truly see also my sickle cell. And then every time I've ever watched somebody look at me and I tell them that I have sickle cell anemia, their eyes change, their demeanor changed. And I watched it my entire life. As a kid, I remember it being it hurt. I would play ball, do these things, and be very much of the 1%, the elite in that. But at the exact same time, I was also could be your weakest link because of my sickle cell. So I was the most elite, but because of my endurance, I was the exact opposite. And until I training my body, and then there's only so much training you can do. So I would watch and this is not something of, I have to say, shame on people. It's instead of having understanding, they went to pity, right? They wanted, and you could see it in their eyes. They didn't look at me as the same or as an equal. They look at me as less than a pitiful, like a pitiful shot dog, Oh, I need to heal it. I need to coddle it. And I think I just didn't want that feeling. I just did not want it. And that's why it made it easier for me to say, Steve, if you came in and were like, Tina, I wanted to do this, I'd be like, bet, let's do it. We got this. Let's roll. I will uplift you, help you in any way possible. And that's just what I did. It was just, that was easier for me. And it was easier for me to uplift others than to uplift myself.
Was there a point in your life, like growing through it? Because it was quite a struggle getting through it, especially as a young athlete. Like you talked about that in your speech a little bit about the endurance and you mentioned training your body and that sort of thing. Was there a point in your life where your perspective shifted a little bit with that, and you're like, you know what, this is a story that needs to be told. This is something that I have faced head on my entire life, and now I'm ready to use that as a way to influence others or lift other people up through my story. Can you recognize a point in your life where like that kind of perspective changed?
I mean, yeah, there was levels to that. There was absolute levels to that. So for me, everybody's got, there's one point, there was levels for me. For me, I can remember the first point that I truly used who I was, um, for for awareness and to tell my story was when I was in middle school. Because like I said, I wasn't supposed to make it to teenage years, especially the things that I was doing. I'm just being honest. And not saying that I was doing anything wrong. I was just a normal kid pushing my body and excelling to his athletic capability. And I'm an athletic woman, by nature. And so it's not that's what God gave me is athletic. But he also gave me something, just a little sprinkle of something in my spice. You know what I mean? So, when I was in middle school, got to middle school, I had about died at 11, and I've been flown in a helicopter multiple times. At this time they flew me out middle school, they did a big 6th through 8th grade. They did a big campaign for it, and I have to have special doctors. I have a hematologist. My pediatric hematologist, they had was in mission. They were doing this big push for the program in general, kids pediatric health, in oncology and hematology. Basically, also your cancers are there too. And that they were doing a big push for that, and also to raise awareness. And they asked me, they were like, "You are the best example of not allowing your illness to control you. You are the best example we have. Can we videotape you playing basketball in middle school?" I don't toot my own horn much, but you can't, there's a lot of things you can compete with. Basketball was not one of them. Can we record you? Can we go out? Can we record you? Can we do a photo shoot? And can we record you and use this as advertisement material? Of course, and I didn't realize how big they were doing it. I thought it was just, something for brochures or whatever for medical people. So can we do that? Yeah. I was like, my mom sat me down. She's like, "Do you want to do this? If you don't want to have cameras on you, you don't have to." I remember my mom, she was looking at me, but she's like, "This is important." And she was like, "This is important for kids to see." She's like, because I remember her telling me that there was a sickle cell child in Sylva, and they sat him in a corner and said, "There's no point in teaching him because he's not going to live to see it anyways." She goes, "This is important." I said, "Yes, ma'am." I said, I wasn't comfortable with it, but it was just a fun time. So I did a photo shoot. They came out and recorded my games, a few games. And I was like, all right, whatever, it is what it is. Like, I'm a kid. I'm like 12. Needless to say, this 12-year-old's face, back in the day when the mall was everywhere to go, was 3 times, there was a whole section of me the size of a house, plastered. I'm talking literally a billboard size that you drive by up in the mall. I couldn't go to the mall for like 3 months, 4 months. I was so ill because there I was, and it was like Mission Pediatric Health billboard, and I was like, great, thanks, guys. And at the time I didn't. I just remembered I was like, I can't go to the mall. Like, I went to the mall like twice. And they were like, and everybody started pointing. I was like, yeah, I'm good. This is not what I signed up for. This is not this. And you're a 12-year-old kid, right? That's always had people look at her a little different, and now that's what they looking at her for, right? So then again, it kind of reverted me. But what encouraged me the most with that turning point was the video. To this day, I'm still the example that they give kids that you can see with sickle cell, and I cherish that. That they still use me. It hurts that they still use me because I'm 36 years old. I would hope a kid would excel past me, but I am still the example of what a kid can do. So that was one of the big turning points for me there. My other turning point was when my brother passed away in 2004 of complications of sickle cell. So he passed away of complications of sickle cell in 2004. I was 16. That was a different time for me. Your evolution, trying to figure out who you are. And so when that happened, I had to process things and do things. And then I, how you said you write in the morning, you're coveted. For me, it's drawing. And drawing is everything. I get all my emotion out drawing at the time when I couldn't play sports to get my emotions out, or to get through those thoughts. For me, it was drawing. And so I did different things for him. And then the turning point came when I did another shirt for my mom for the anniversary. It was the anniversary of his dad for his birthday. It was for his birthday. And it was shirts. I didn't know at the time. I just did shirts, logo that I'd drawn. I put it on the front. I put that on the back, and his memorial design on the front, because she had found it and loved it. And if you know anything about a Black household or old school household, you might think it's yours, but guess what? That's all there is to look through, and that's exactly what she did. And so when she found it and was looking through my notebook and saw it, I decided to gift it to her, and so I did that. And so that was you wouldn't think that was a turning point, but so what happened in there is that thousands of people, if you know anything about Sylva, North Carolina, what you do, bowling alley used to be the place to be, right? You had bowling alley and the bone shack. We ain't gonna talk about bone shack. You know what? People have fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, college students have fun. The old school bone shack. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was, and they was connected. So, and I had thousands of people ask me, the college students want to know what brand my mother and I were wearing, because we would go on bowling night, glow and bowl. And everybody would ask me what brand I was wearing. And I was like, I designed this. And it evolved from there. My mother looked at me. If you know anything about my mother, if ever met her, or even heard any story, when she speaks, you listen. And she told me that I needed to pursue this. And I said, but I know, she said, again, you need to think about it. I said, yes, ma'am. So I prayed. I said, God, if this is for me, then give me a sign. And I was looking through, and if you ever been in an old school Black household, you know, even an old school household, your parents tell you, you got that corner of stuff in the house that, it's been there since 3rd grade, and you need to go clean it out. Well, she told me to go clean it out. I went to go clean it out, and I found a notebook, 5-star notebook, that said, dreams in cursive, every different letter. And I was like, well, what the hell what is this? Like, what is this? So I pick it up, and I think I am 99.9% positive I made it in the hospital. But it was literally a business plan for a clothing brand. And you would think 11 years old, we're talking maybe 3 different names, 3 different logos. I mean, you're 11, 12. You're not going to add 3 different names, 3 different logos. Where I wanted the clothes to be produced, who I wanted to sell, who was my target market. And I said, okay, Lord, I closed it. And that was the turning point of, I knew that I needed to use a message to the last of, to use my story and what I had been through to uplift and tell a story. So that's kind of how my points of upliftment and those turning points happened. It was about 3 of them.
The design for your brother's memorial shirt, did you ever sell that through Survivor's Journey, or did that?
So Survivor's Journey is a rebranding. I was originally Survival Pride. Survival Pride was the first clothing brand to come out of Western North Carolina. I was the first African American to have a store in downtown Sylva. I was the first woman to have a few different accolades just because of where we are and what we did. But I presented it to Mom as an official brand, a hoodie and a shirt. But I only did a select. I think I didn't officially bring it out. I only did it for my mom and I, but as an official brand piece. Yeah, I never sold it. I don't think I ever will. That's just something that's us. And yeah, for my recollection, I didn't actually print that design. I printed it for us, but I didn't print it.
So what was your brother's name?
Creighton Casey. Our relationship was complex. The reason it was so complex is my mother had me when she was 45. My brother was 14 when I was born. So he had an annoying 3-year-old on his tail at 17. He had an annoying 5-year-old at 19. Our relationship, and my mother was a single mother. And as you can tell from this conversation, she was the center of everything for me. Of everything. She was my best friend. She was everything. Most people, they say that about their parents, but, people have resentment. I had respect for her, but as a single mom, and then when my brother, as a brother, came into the picture, he kind of did a dual role because my dad passed at a very young age for me. So my brother was that older man figure in my life. So that relationship was very interesting. I wanted to be everywhere he was. Whatever he was doing, I was on his tail. And I would use my smile and cutes and ask his buddies to go with him wherever he was going. Because my brother could ball amazingly as well. And they'd be going to the court and I'd be like, can I go? 6 years old. Can I go? 7 years old, and I'd get to play on the playground, have my own ball. So that relationship, that dynamic was different. It was a little bit of, it wasn't a father figure, but it was an older man. And I guess he did sort of play the father figure role, but it wasn't that in that nation. It was just my older big brother getting on my nerves. We fought like cats and dogs, but that man was so intellectually smart. I think he still holds the highest IQ score to come out of Smoky Mountain High. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if he still does or not. But it was complex because in moments he would be the most, oh my God, that man could annoy you and get on your nerves past meaning. Because again, so we're this big difference. And so when I was doing my homework with him, and like he's in his 20s, right? And I'm doing my homework and I would say, I think it's this. He goes, no, ma'am, you don't think, you know. And I would get so pissed off and I'd throw my pen down, stomp off. Well, it's stupid. That's what think means. You know, because that's just who we were as intellectual people. We would, like, I would go to the meaning of words because my mother would tell me that that if you're going to use a word, you got to know the meaning of it and you had to spell it. The spelling part was always hard for me. I'm a horrible speller. But I would use these extravagant words and she'd be like, spell it. And brother would be like, spell it. I would be like so pissed off. But that was our relationship. You know, he was always very much trying me and pushing me because a secret is that he had sickle cell as well. He had sickle cell SS and it tormented his body just like it torments mine. It's either a partner in life or or we can battle. And so it was a unique relationship of him helping me and guiding me to understand my body, to tell me. He sat me down and was like, listen, if you're ever going to succeed in this world, you got to know one thing. You're going to have to work not just 10 times harder.
Where do you think he got his wisdom and his courage from? Like, where did he get all that from? To face that stuff and to face it and then be willing to share it with you.
My brother was if anybody you ever say Creighton Casey, they're going to be like, your brother was one smart man. Loving, smart man. And I'm like, he did all, and I was like, had fun too, didn't he? They'd be like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, I bet he did. But I think he truly got it. He got it from our ancestors. He got it from my mom. He got it from being around my grandmother, which was a pioneer in her own right. She raised 9 kids in the 40s. Had one of a set of twins, which my mother is, and she took care of him since she was born. Since he was born in the 70s, 73, my mother took care of my grandmother. They live, and my brother was her baby, and so when he would go through his crisis and his pain, my grandmother had the old time wisdom, of how to soothe and help him. And I think that a lot transcended into him. I think my mother, watching my mother battle through what she went, made him a better man and made him to understand that the things that he went through, he didn't want to have to figure out on his own. He didn't want his little sister to have to go through. He didn't want her to have to battle those things alone and without knowledge. And I think that's just an evolution of him growing as a man and as a person and wanting to uplift me and making sure I didn't make the same mistakes he made. That's just who he was. That's just part of the Casey. I think that's part of who my gene of a family, everybody gets, in your family, you see people, oh, they got that gene of the Casey's, or they got that, or they got this of your family gene. I think that's truly what our line is, and I think that's just part of our ancestry and who built our and us and what God has meant for us to be. And I think Creighton made sure that he transcended that into me to make sure that I didn't do the same struggles and the same mistakes as him. And he knew the facts.
Your mom was around to see some of your growth, right? To see you grow up into a woman and to see you kind of start this business, I think. But he didn't. Well, he didn't, right? So what do you think he would say today to see you as a woman? Like, how would he describe what you've grown into? What would he say about you right now in this moment if he had a chance to come back and talk to us in this call?
My brother was a hard man. Hard to please. I think he would be proud of the woman I've become. Dang, I'm bringing tears to my eyes. Excuse me, I'm sorry. He built a lot in me. He did a lot. I think he would be proud of what I've overcome. He'd be very proud of it. I think he would still be very hard on me, though. I think he would analyze everything that I did, because that's just who he is. We're coaches and we're teachers. I think he would analyze and tell me. He would tell me exactly what I did wrong in that moment and next. But I think he would tell me I have more to come, that I still have more to achieve. I think that would be Creighton. He's not very much of a settler. He never was. Not from me anyways. So I think that was what he would be happy. But he probably would tell me he was proud. But I need to fix it. Like, there would never be a satisfaction level.
Yeah.
We need to elevate here. I think that's what the way he would be.
So, pivoting a little bit to your mother, because you talked about how special she was to both of you guys. At what point in your life did you realize that my mom's special? My mom's not like the other moms. I have the best mom in the world. Like, right? Like, when did you know that she was different?
That is honestly pretty easy for me, because she was the only Black teacher in our county. She was the only Black teacher in our county representation, and she was the only, of course, Black teacher in her school as well. Only Black coach. I just knew that my mom was special because I couldn't go nowhere. When I mean we couldn't go nowhere. I knew she was special when I was about middle school, when I truly figured out that I was fighting, and not that I was fighting for her space, right? But every kid feels like that moment of, this is my mom, not yours. She's mine. She's not just Miss McDonald to you or Miss Casey. This is my mama. Like, she's mine. Leave her alone. Like, you know what I mean? Like that moment, not like leave her alone, but let me have my mom. And it was, I can remember us coaching, because she coached soccer, basketball, softball for Smoky Mountain E. And I played those. But I can remember her almost sacrificing my birthday, and not because my birthday wasn't important. It was just, that's how important the community was to her. And my excelling to do a soccer practice on my birthday, that was my soccer team. I was livid. Absolutely livid. I was like, I don't care if it's my team. I just want you to myself. And so I got a little in my feelings about it and puffed off, but I can remember that moment. And then I can remember in middle school, they were like, man, I love Miss D. Miss D's my everything. I'm like, yeah, it's not Miss D. It's Miss McDonald, and she's my mama, and you better hold it. I just protected that line. And I knew, when that's how I kind of knew that she was different. I knew she was something extraordinary that was different from the rest.
Mm-hmm.
The way other people held her in regard. The way I had to fight, not for her attention ever, because I was always number one. But I had to watch how everybody just held her in such a high regard, and always wanted her near. And that kids always knew that she was loved. That it it was just a constant. And that's how I knew. Like, we had kids at our house in Sylva on Scotts Creek Road. It wasn't nothing but this is little house. Like, we had 10, 15 kids running out that thing. Like, anytime. Every weekend. Like, there was never a time that my mother didn't have somebody with her. Didn't have some kid, my brother's friends, my friend, a kid around the block. Like, some family stopping by because they needed to know about this or that. Or, like, that's how I knew that, like, we were just always so immersed in the community, and the community wanted us there. And that was the beautiful thing I think about our community, though, that everybody was seen. But that's how I kind of knew that my mom was special, was from those little things. And, and then I knew very early that I was also the only example people would have of a Black person or a Black woman, or a Black child. I was one of the few examples that they would have. That was just something I observed very early. And I knew what my mom stood for in the community because of her coaching. And it was just easy, really super easy to see, by 10 on.
Why was it so important to her to remain engaged in the community like that and be able to juggle so many things, coaching all the different sports, an engaging teacher, a great mother to you guys? Like, there was a lot going on in her life. And for her to be able to manage all of that throughout all of it, why was it so important to her, do you think?
I think it was important to her because she wanted to build her community. It was important to her to have a community that her children could respect and grow up in and love. I think that's just who she was. Like I said, as a core trait, it was an uplifter, it was a teacher, it was a lover of people and who they are, seeing them for who they are and not judging them. I can remember just her always making sure people knew that they were seen. And I think it was important to her coming from the era that she came from. She went to a consolidated, she was in the only consolidated Black school in Jackson County, where now the school board houses, right? That used to be the consolidated Black school. That was the second one. And, she went there. And I think in this small town, she wanted to make sure that this beautiful Black community stayed vibrant, that she knew, and to build up. And the community in general, like, I just know she wanted to make sure no matter what race you were, that you were loved and uplifted. And she had that, and she felt that, and she built that, and she wanted to continue that. She wanted to make sure this beautiful mountain town that she saw, she wanted to make sure it stayed vibrant. I think that was important to her, important to be in the community, to make sure it was always uplifted. And all kids were seen. Kids, she loved kids past anything. That's what God put on her, was a word of nurture. Like, every mom has nurturing to their child, right? Mom had the gift of nurturing to the world. No matter, and she was hard on it. It wasn't like she was Miss Lovey-Dovey. No. The cup in the back of your head? Because that's where she hit you. That's how you knew she loved you, was a slap in the back of the head. If you got fussed at like this with your finger swinging, like, you can talk to anybody that she's ever taught, and they will tell you, my mom played no games. She absolutely loved every kid. Nobody was different. And you were going to know exactly where you stood with her at all times. But you knew everything she did was out of love and care and for upliftment. And I think that's just who inherently who she was. That's the only thing that I can explain. I can't say that it's something that was built. I think it's inherently who she was. It's what I watched my entire life. I watched her. If you know anything about school systems, some people don't know that your child has a file for school. That file from pre-K, kindergarten to high school follows you. And every teacher writes a review of that student. Like, your child gets a report card. But there's also a review of actually your child that gets passed from teacher to teacher each year. Now it's digital, of course. Each year about your child, their movements, their learnings, their skills, right? All of the things, their emotional level, all of the things. And then you've got this personal note, of course, of judgment of a person on that child. And that can set a mood for somebody, right? A judgment of somebody else can set your mood. And this is why I say that my mom was so different. And I remember her teaching me this lesson. I was a kid. She had a file of a kid, and she was like, she would look at it, she'd be like, okay. And she tossed it. I said, Mama, don't you need to read that? Mother, do you not need to read that? She goes, I want to tell you something. She goes, what's in this file does not define this child. What's in this file has nothing to do with how I treat this child. The teacher's experience and perspective is in this file. And she goes, and I will build my own perspective and judgment on this child. On every child. She goes, I will read their grades. But that's all I will do. She will not do any of the personnel files. You know, the personal. I will not do that. I remember she was like, I will judge and give respect to get it. She goes, every day. And I will never judge somebody on somebody else. I will make my own judgment and call on a child and who they are. Because if I read this file and take what this teacher says to heart, it can narrow and hurt my judgment on the child. And I looked at her and I said, yes, ma'am. And, at first it took me a while to understand what she was saying. Because I was like 11, 12, maybe, helping her go through school. But I realized a particular kid in my class, I was one of the really good friends with him, and I was friends with everybody. I didn't care where you came from, what you did, what you looked like. I was friends with everybody, right? That's just who I was. I didn't care if you were the outcast or this, that, and third. I was friends from the star basketball player to the nerd nobody paid attention to, or that country boy over in the corner and just cares about hunting. Yeah, me and him can go talk to. But I got that from Mom. I didn't judge anybody for what you said they were. I gained my own perspective on who they were. And that goes a long way. And I think that goes a long way to say who she was. And that's how she treated everybody. And I think that's why everybody loved her. She did. And loved who she was. And why she was so coveted is because they knew they would always be treated equally and seen and given respect for her, no matter the age. And I try to implement the same.
She valued the community and valued building this tight-knit community, but she was also a writer. And as a writer, it seems like it was kind of important for her to preserve some of the history, right? And share those stories with that community to kind of show where we came from as a culture, as a society, as a small town. What was that like, hearing those stories as a young girl, as a young woman? Like, How, because that's so valuable.
It was awesome. It was awesome. Like for me, it was super awesome to be able to watch that side of my mother, because she was an ordinary, extraordinary woman, as I call her. She had so many different levels and so many different layers to her. And one of the big, like you said, is her writing. She loved to write. Throughout her 30-year career, that's what she did. She gathered all the information on our ancestry and created a book, historical, and fictional novel off of my family, my great-grandparents. But it all started in the 70s when she got the $1,000 grant to research all the African Americans in the history of them in Western North Carolina. And that's where it started for her, was in college when she got, if you don't know what teacher corps is no longer a thing, but she got her bachelor's and her master's through teacher corps within 4 years, which is a hard program. And so she was able to do that. Was it 4 years or 6 years? It was long. It was a shorter period, but a compound period. And I watched her tell me about that, because I wasn't alive for that, right? But watching her as a child go from, knowing that she did that at Western, these accolades, and then she continued it through her teacher career. And if you were her kid, any of the students, because they were all her babies, she would read you a piece of her story that she did, that she would write. That's how she would get you interested in Black history, was to read the book that she wrote, parts of it. And then she would write more each season, each year, and the kids would help input, and they would start to ask for it, But watching that process, and then on the weekends, she was doing genealogy on everybody. It didn't stop at her college career. She did her genealogy just not on our family. She did it on everybody's family in Western and in Jackson County, and spreading to Swain and more. And we would be in people's homes looking at pictures, old pictures of people, them telling stories, mom writing down different stories, them giving her pictures, extra pictures that they had. I can remember on Saturday morning, we had a couple things we did. It was like clockwork. I was up, crack of dawn, don't even want to talk about it. Ma Lorinda, I would hear her say, "Yoo-hoo." She'd be at the house. Yeah, you heard me. She would yell, "Yoo-hoo." And I mean loud, like, "Yoo-hoo." Come out my window. We'd be at the yard sale. We're going to Uncle Bill's flea market. We're going to 441, which is no longer there, where they just have power. We was going there, and we was going hunting for stuff. I would hop in the back of her truck. Me and Mama ride out there. And we come back, and then off to the library we go. And then to the library we go, and I know how to write everybody's genealogy from my mom. Like, if you tell me your name, who your mama and daddy is, I can write your, and not from Ancestry.com. I'm talking knowing how to research the birth certificate, death certificates, all of those forms. I learned from Mom because I watched her do it. I helped her do that research as a kid. It was just cool to me to find, Stephen Stan's name, and then I'd go find what book on the birth certificate. It tells you what the next book is and where your parents' death certificate is, or their birth certificate is. So then I ran to that part to come bring her that book of here's that they existed. Okay, they weren't born in this county. All right, so we got to go to the next county. So, those were my summers and Saturday mornings, as a kid before I had choices, was to do the research and then watch her write, and help edit. Now I can edit, but I ain't writing it. But that's where it was a beautiful thing just to watch it.
Wow. So you recently, within the last couple of years, have become a mother yourself, right? So what parts of your mother, what parts of those things that she shared with you are you taking and using yourself now? What tools did she give you that you're now applying to your life today?
A lot. I didn't realize. So, say this sounds bad, and as much as I absolutely adore my mom and she is my shero, it drove me nuts when people told me I act like my mama. I mean, it drove me absolutely nuts. If you told me I was acting similar to my mom, like, no, absolutely not. Like, her favorite color was green. I didn't like green for years. She loved bananas. I hated eating bananas just because mom was eating bananas. But now that, I'm a mom, it's kind of hilarious because I'll be saying the same things she would say. And the things that, it's hard because I would love for her to be able to see her grandson. But I've implemented so many different things, and he's only 2. So, a lot of the life lessons and the things that I do want to teach him that mother definitely taught me, that'll be a conversation and life lessons for when he's, the 8, 10, 11 years old. But what I am implementing is making sure that he's always learning, that he always is moving and to understand. And, but I'm letting him be a kid. Like, my mom let me be a kid, though. Like, even though she was an educator, she let me be a kid. Making sure that he's in the grass, just playing. But the look, I think the mom look, everybody, I got the look down. You know what I mean? Like, I figured that out quick. Like, that's something I already had because I coached with her. So I learned a lot of different of even her coaching techniques and some of her teaching techniques as an adult because she passed away when I was 25. And so I was able to get some good knowledge from her, and I coached with her. So a lot of those things I implement, but the look and the tone, I definitely was able to get key on from the beginning because of her. That's right now what she's teaching, what's coming through because, like I said, he's 2, and he's trying to be cute and 2 and terrible at the same time. He trying mama. I told him the other day, I said he was standing up on his chair. I looked at him, I said, sit down. He looked at me, said, Victor, sit down. He looked at me again. I looked at him one more time. I said, Victor, if you don't sit down, we're about to roll in the dirt. Mm-hmm. And he was like, okay. And he just sat down. He don't even know what roll in the dirt truly means. He did not want to find out. He sat down. Like, those things are what I, learned right now. But I also learned that, what mom taught me, being a mother to me, was she exposed me to so much. Like, I was, as an entrepreneur, you would think, okay, some people think, I never was exposed. A lot of entrepreneurs will tell you that they weren't exposed to it. They just kind of jumped into it and they had to figure their way, right? Like, and part of it. I'm very blessed that I was like when I look back, my mother exposed me to so many rare things that you don't even get from exposure that you normally don't get as a kid. Like, I had exposure and access to entrepreneurs all the time. And this is to say account for our amazing small town, like, 'cause, a little small town growing up, a lot of entrepreneurs, 'cause there's all small businesses. But she was friends with them, and they would let me come back and see stuff, and I'd see them working and doing things. And then I was able to also go on the farm side. Her friends had farms. Some were, and then, we traveled a ton. I don't know how she traveled as a single mom with us. I really don't. Um, but before the age, I traveled up and down this north side, the east, west. Yeah, up and down this side of the United States. And I don't know how she did it. I watched her work 2 jobs. But what I took from her being a mom is the resilience.
You're in such a unique situation in that, like, it has to feel so prideful in a sense that, like, here you are, as a young girl, they told you wouldn't make it because of your sickle cell, right? They told you that you wouldn't make it this far. And then here you are, like, not just being a mother, but being able to, like, plan out these valuable lessons, right? These valuable lessons that you can hand off to young Victor and then set him up for the same kind of success that your mother and your brother did for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's amazing. And I say this in every way, shape, or form. My mother gave me a foundation, but I'm going to there's things and access that she didn't have, and a few things that I didn't learn that I've learned now. And I want to make sure, there's these times that Victor understands this heritage and who he is, and my mama made sure of that. That's one thing. That's one thing she gave me. That's something that we haven't talked about. It's like, when you talk about what my mom gave me, like, what did she give me? What's the everlasting thing that she gave me for motherhood? And this may sound crazy, but it's not because she gave me a name, right? Every parent names the child. They have to, before they leave, they have to name the kid. She stood on business, our ancestors, and who she was when she named me. And so did my father. My name is Faustine Creighton McDonald. My name is over 120 years old. I am named after my grandmother. Faustine is the first name of my grandmother on my father's side, my father's mother. That's her first name. Creighton is the middle name of my grandmother on my mother's side. And McDonald, of course, is my inherent, my father's last name. But most people don't go that. They do, like they'll do to make prideful steps they'll do junior. And if you're a junior, I'm so sorry. And all the juniors around the world, I'm sorry. Don't take this the wrong way. But they'll do it as, as a prideful, I want to keep the name because I am something. She made sure that I had my ancestors with me at all times. She made sure I meant something at all times. And that means a lot to me. I stand strong with that. And I hold my name so dear. It's not it's hard to spell when you're a kid trying to spell your name in kindergarten. But that's what she truly gave me. Her and my father, they made sure that I knew who I was all the time. Every time I said my name, I would remember who I am.
And did they share their stories with you about your grandmothers? Did they tell you, like, the whys behind it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They gave me that pride and that understanding and that love of family and loving your ancestors and loving what they had given you to bringing you into, you are your own person, though. That use that to feed who you are, not to have a standard on anybody else. My father died when I was 8, but I was the apple of his eye. And my mother they made it very simple. He got to pick the first name, she got to pick the middle name. But she also made sure my father knew what the rules were. Go ahead and name me. So I was Faustine. His mother was an amazing woman, and a beautiful woman. And I'm thankful for being named. I'm thankful for being named after my grandmother, because Clarinda, it's an elegant name. It's a very elegant name, but most people, it's old. But you're like, well, why did she name it? But Clarinda Derazette was a teacher, as well. Derazette was the teacher on the koala boundary for the kids that looked just like me. For the Indian and Black kids. I have a picture of her teaching on the koala boundary, and all the kids, the natives and native Black kids. Like, it's a beautiful picture. Before she took on 9 kids and stopped teaching. You can't teach in 9 kids. I don't. Anybody over 2, I say you have a whole family. You have a whole herd. A village to me. But that's what she truly gave me. And Victor has the same. His name is Victor Lee Crimmins. He stands on business just like I do, but he also knows he doesn't. He also knows that he doesn't. Who they were and who your ancestors were does not define you. You make your own path. And I think that's what living, the speech that you saw, being that living legacy. A lot of people let what their ancestors and what others have done define them. And you can't let them define you. You learn from that. You got to know where you come from to know where you're going, right? That's just who it is, and I think that's what she gave me the most.
When did you come up with this concept of living legacy? How did that hit you? Like, what was that moment?
That hit me. I have a mentor, Marie Cochran. She's the founder of Appalachian Artist Project. And I think everybody needs to grow. Like, I don't think anybody ever needs to stay stagnant. And I think any way to do that, you have to learn from others. That's one thing I learned from Mom, and interesting enough, Marie was in my circle because of my mother. And my mother was actually one of her mentors and ambassador to the Sylva community. Marie's from Georgia, Toccoa, Georgia. And at first, if you know me, I'm very, very, I will absolutely tell you anything. And you ask me and I'm good. But I'm very, very much protected. I protect myself. I protect my wife. I protect my wholesomeness. My mama understood that. She told me I protect my peace. I protect who I am. And so I'm very, not standoffish, but you only can get so far, right? I think that's a lot of people need to have that barrier and to understand who they are and to have that peace and circle. And so, and I'm very, because of my mom, everybody was with her, right? Everybody loved Mom and everybody was everywhere. And I did watch some people take advantage of Mom being that loving and person who she was. And I'd be danged if I was going to be me, in certain extents, just with certain situations, just a few. And so I was very standoffish as Marie at first. And Marie helped me. And after my mother passed, I realized how much of an ally, how much she truly loved my mom, for everything that she did for her. And I saw how much Marie was excelling and also contributing to the community in so many ways. that I didn't understand and not understand those networks. And those are the networks that I needed to do. Marie's the ultimate networker. An amazing woman when it comes to that and knowing the right. And I knew I needed to learn that. And I also needed to figure out how to focus who I am. And so Marie guided me in that to help focus who I am. And it was a conversation with Marie and then giving me a little bit of homework. So it came along probably, I can tell you, what is your living legacy came along. It's about 8 months ago. Not far, not far before I did that speech for the kids. I had to really sit down and look at myself. And I had to also, because of a project that I'm doing for my mom, has made for the community that represents the minority community, and will be a sculpture of my mother, hopefully. I had to sit down and truly analyze myself. And that was like something I've always done, but and the evolution of a company called ACE that I've started, Aspire, Create, Elevate. It does put me at the center of it. You know, how you said it makes me come to the center of, I have to stand, I have to do the motivational, I have to tell my story. I'm not in the shadows anymore. But it also uplifts Steve. If Steve came to me, it's about business networking. It's about minorities having the same opportunities. And when I mean minorities, I mean minority person of maybe not the income that doesn't understand. If Steve wants to take that to the next level, what does that look like for him? And that's where the living legacy came from. I had to look at myself and figure out what my living legacy, what I wanted to do to contribute to this beautiful world, beautiful, crazy world. What was I going to do to contribute to that? And what does that look like? What are my God-given talents, what God has given me through prayer? And that's what he gave me, that message. And I'm running with it. That's what it is. What is your living legacy? That's where that came from. And I'm holding on to it. It's really been a blessing for me, and it's opened my doors to be able to speak to the kids and for them to give them the avenue.
It's just such a powerful message, because I've always felt like I was like weighted down by other people's expectations of me. Like, it took me a really long time. Like, I wasn't until I was a grown adult that I felt empowered to like do what I wanted to do. I always felt the pressure of other people's expectations. And I never was able to look at it from the kind of that perspective that this is my legacy. What am I going to do for myself? What am I going to do to for my future generations and that sort of thing? It just really spoke to me. It really spoke to me.
I'm very thankful. It spoke to me when it was coming out, and it hit me. It's just like, okay, God, I understand. And that pressure, like you said, that pressure, and I understand that in so many ways. Like I said, that pressure of what other expectations people had on you, right? Of who Steve's supposed to be, what he's not supposed to do, what he's been told he isn't supposed to do, what is he supposed to do in life. Like, you have, and everybody has those family expectations, some bigger than others. Or you have, like, for some kids, their parents, unfortunately, are not in the best situations, right? The parents are in their lives, the grandparents are raising them. And they know that's not that they want to be, but that's also their history. So how do they, fix that? And there's that saying, breaking generational curses. We're not breaking generational curses because there's nothing to be broken. We learn from them, right? We grow, and I think when it comes to that it comes straight into, what is your living legacy? What do you want to leave on here when they say your name? they're not going to say your name and say Victoria was my mom, right? That's not the leg. They going to say, yeah, Victoria Casey McDonald was an amazing historian, advocate, so many different things, right? And this is going to be this book. And then it almost scares you. Like for me, it's like, I can't let that down. Like, but what are they going to, well, now it's a scary point of, well, I'd rather just not do anything so that they can't say anything bad. Right? I know you've had that feeling, like I'd rather not do anything. And you have to get over that. You have to realize that you aren't your mother, you aren't your father, you aren't anything. You aren't what other people say you are. You're only what you portray and you do is what you're going to be left for. Your actions always speak louder than your words. They always will. What you do, but you have to end the work and what's going to be left. And so I had to realize that, yes, I am Victoria's daughter. Yes, I am a Casey. Yes, I'm, Lorinda. Like a lot of people know a lot of different people of my family, Michael Clifford, this, that, and the third. And so when you ask and say, oh, wait a minute, your mama, oh, you a Casey. Oh, yeah, they did this, yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's my family. You get that, right? But then they're like, what do you do? And I think people forget that. I think people forget that last piece of that question, and they're so stuck on the first piece that they never hear the end of what people are actually asking. And it's truly just, who are you? Right? And I think kids forget that they can be whoever they want. And I think I know when I did that speech and when I really honed in on that after talking to some teachers and other leaders in the community, that Smoky Mountain in general and other people needed to know that their past doesn't define them. Their parents don't define them. That the only thing that defines them is what they want to define them, and they have to figure that out, and that know that they can do whatever they say. And if there's somebody stopping them, if somebody tells them that they're not good enough, you need to find a new circle. And I just wanted kids to know that they are their own living legacy, that they can do whatever they want. And that's just some driving force, because it was honed in on me, and I was always told that, right? But I didn't see that. I only saw that first piece. I only saw the first piece of who this enormous mountain this woman and family was, and what I had to represent. I felt like I had to walk that fine line. And I wanted kids to know that they weren't the only ones that felt that way. Because I felt like I had to walk that fine line. And then it took me coming to Raleigh as well to understand that and to get that, to be my own person.
It's hard not to. It's hard not to feel stuck kind of in that place. Before we begin to wrap up, tell me about Survivor's Journey. Tell me about that clothing brand, because you mentioned early in the podcast using your art to kind of grieve the loss of your brother and grieve through traumas and things that you've been through in your life. So what is Survivor's Journey? Where did it come from?
Survivor's Journey clothing. It is a tragedy to triumph story. And I'll say that with my soul and my heart. My brother passed. I grieved by doing that. But out of it came a triumph for me to understand who I am and how to move. And how I could bring a message to people and give them something that they could put on and be proud. Like, I'm going to face this day and this shirt saying how I'm going to face it, and be proud of everything that's on them, and knowing that everybody is an individual. Nobody's the same. And that's the way I wanted to approach my brand as well. I wanted to approach it that nobody is supposed to look the same all the time. I did limited edition. I do 50 to 100 of a t-shirt, pants, we do joggers, but everything is select pieces. Like, nothing's ever the same. Nothing comes out ever the same, because we're not all the same and our stories aren't the same. And that's the way I want all my clothing to feel, that you are unique, because everybody is. And so that's what I did with my brand. And I made sure that God, I've said it a few times, that God's the center of it. Survivor's Journey clothing, survived by grace, living in the moment. And I mean that with every heart of me. You are survived by the grace of God. And you're living in this moment. And don't take it for granted. Love it. Own it. And embrace it. Right? Just love it. And that we're there. And, I know this is a podcast, not a video podcast, but like this morning it was, it's maybe just a little extra, but this morning it was hard for me to get up. Like, I know we're wrapping up, but this is so much. So I have, with my sickle cell, it can be amazing days, and it can be really bad days. Either way, I'm going to push through. My pain's always 5 or a 6 on the scale. It was running 8, 9 all through the evening, and I played softball. And I told my sister, my best friend, Samantha Crawford, we were talking about peers, and that I will tell you this. A peer in my life, she's been with me since 30 years. I've known this girl since I was playing T-ball now. And she has watched me do. And I told her, it's so funny, I'll tell her something, and she'll be like, if anybody can do it, you can. And yesterday I was like, hey, I got a softball game, I got this. She's like, looks like you need to go sit down somewhere. We're real truthful with you. I keep people in my circle that are truthful. And I want people to know that. You got to keep people around this show that are truthful to you. Marriage feelings, but they need to be truthful with you. She's like, you need to lay down, sit down somewhere. I said, nah, I got a softball game to play. And, but I was like, I also got this interview in the morning. And I had a hard time sleeping last night. And I don't know if it was anxious, because I just wanted to make sure I wanted to be the right message to you. And that's just the way I am for a basketball game or anything else. I always want to make sure I get the right words and what God has sent for me to say and to do and to reach just that one person. But I got up and I was just hurting, and I'm so thankful for my partner in life, my man Joe Crimmins. He's like, baby, I got Victor, you're good, and he helped me get there. And I think that's important, and I want people to know that like, you have those sets of peers, in your life, and that's something that you told me that it was. But I want people to know that you have a tribe. You need to have a tribe. And that tribe may change, but make sure you have solid people that will back you no matter what, but also let you know when you're true. Let you know, call you on your crap. Because if you don't, you're going to go through this life thinking you're the best of everything, and you have nothing to grow. Just keep that tribe, and because you did ask me, what my peers would be when you sent me the email. My peers, I have this tribe. I want people to know that they need to have a tribe, and my tribe helped me get to this interview today to you. And when I was getting dressed, I was hurting, and I was like, how am I going to circle back around to why I'm saying you this? How am I going to, what is my message? And I was trying to find my clothes, hurting. And I hate saying that, but I know it needs to be said. The situation of who I am and what it is, because sickle cell is not an easy thing. I don't think don't let this pretty face fool you. I don't think I'm that pretty, but I mean it in that it's painful. I'm most people would never look at me and know that I have anything wrong with me. That there's anything that I fight every day. And so when I put on that clothes, I have a shirt and a collection. Each collection has a theme. And I grabbed the shirt and I was like, God, I don't know what shirt we'll wear, blah, 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 for the day. And I looked and I had a shirt in a collection that said, be the change. I said, well, I hear you, God. Put on Be the Change shirt from Survivor's Journey. Because that's what I wanted to be when I stepped in to talk to you today. And I knew that's what needed to be said. I needed to be that change for people to understand that they can be that living legacy and what they need to get there. And they need that tribe of people. There's not ever one peer person that's helped me. There's a tribe. Like you said, where we've got people with ingredients, right? My ingredients are fast, exotic, and multicultural, and look nothing like me. And I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful for the opportunity that you've given me to talk today. I'm long-winded like my mama. We probably talked about 5 different things. But I wanted to, wanted to focus on that point, knowing that I want people to know that they do need a tribe as well. And I have a tribe of people.
And I think it's important, like you mentioned earlier, your friend, your peer shared the message with you. You need to be able to receive the message when they're being honest with you, when they're telling you, Faustine, you need to take a break, take a nap, rest, or whatever. Listen to them, right? No, don't take it personally, right?
Yeah.
Last thing, do you guys ever make it back to Sylva? How often do you visit Sylva these days?
Listen, Sylva is home. It's mountain home. It's in my soul. People ask where I'm from. I don't have the traditional twang, I guess, accent that people, and I tell them I'm from the mountains, and they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, that's home. I was like, you ever been to the mountains? They were like, no. I was like, you need to go. I'll tell them it's God's country. Because when you get up on top of that mountain,
it's just you and God up there. That's just you and God up there.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And no, but I come to town. I'm actually coming in next weekend. For the brand, I always come back in to do WNC Jeep Fest. I got some special collections coming out for that. And I also have a tiny home I built on my family's land. You heard me say briefly about the Caseys. The Casey is my parents on my mom's side. That's who we are. And I was very fortunate and a blessing that right after slavery, we don't have all those acres anymore. We had about 50 acres. And what's left, I own pieces. I have a tiny home built on it. And that's where it is my peace. It is my sanctuary. I do Airbnb it, but it is my peace and my sanctuary. And I can't wait to share it with Victor when he's old enough to stay there and not jump off the loft. There's that. 2-year-olds are dangerous. But yeah, I come back probably every 3 weeks. I'm in town at least every once a month for something. And right now I'm also, just so you know, we're in the works of doing the Black public art projects, if I'm saying the title correctly, that we've decided on. And with Marie, I am partnering with Marie on this. It was brought to my attention that, one, we were wanting to make sure there's representation of African Americans, because a lot of people go to Sylva and never know that there's Black people ever existed. We don't want that. And for that Black representation, we talked about murals and different things. But it was brought that there should be a sculpture, and we're doing a Black, let's call it a public Black art project. And we are working with the town of Sylva as of last year. They announced that February 26th is Victoria Casey McDonald Day. That was the reason that you saw post, and then it sort of evolved that ACE, my company, Aspire, Create, Elevate's first project is going to be partnered with Marie to have a sculpture of Victoria Casey McDonald in downtown Sylva. That's the goal. If you've done a council meetings, they have backed it. They have, well, we've started the process. Let's put it this: we don't have an MOU is in place, but yeah. So I'll be in town a lot, working on that, raising funds, working on with the town to figure out those things, and those natures. Nothing's set in stone, but I do want to start talking about that project more, and letting people know that that is coming. It's something that was people wanted, because she's a great representation downtown of not just, the Black community, of the teaching community, of the African community. She represents everything, and she touched all communities. And she was an ordinary, extraordinary woman, that I was just having pleasure of to be my mom. So yeah, I'll be in there.
That's what I'm getting at, is that I'm the food pantry manager at the community table downtown. And about a week ago, I picked up a basketball, right? I just went to Walmart and bought like a $30 basketball. So anytime you're in town, swing by the community table, and I want to do like a 10-minute shoot around with you. That's all I want. Just like a 10-minute shoot around at Bridge Park right there.
All right, let's go.
Come on. All right.
Let's do it. Right. Anytime, man.
Faustine,
anytime.
It has been an absolute honor to speak with you today. Yeah, I'm so grateful that you accepted my invitation. I learned so much from you. Anything that I can do to help support the art project going on downtown, any of that stuff, please don't hesitate to hit me up.
Appreciate you. And like I said, this has been very much an honor. And I hope you know that it teaches me something every time that I speak openly, and hope that one helps me refine the craft of speaking. And also, it's very much soul reflective, and this has been great for me. I hope you know that. And what you're doing is definitely, don't let anybody ever tell you, and I'm saying this wholeheartedly, standing on business, don't let anybody ever tell you what you're doing is not important and it doesn't need to be done.
Yeah.
Just remember, one person.
That's what brought us together. Going for one person.
Just need to hit one person.
Thank you so much. You're a doll. I greatly appreciate your time.
Yes,